Today we are delighted to be joined by the founding partner of Tully Rinckey, Mr. Mathew Tully, and Senator Neale Richmond, Fine Gael spokesperson on European affairs in the Shannon. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Senator Richmond, can you explain to the US business audience where we are at with the Brexit negotiations and how did we get to this point?
In June 2016, the British people decided to vote to leave the European Union, a result that we in Ireland and across the European Union were very disappointed by, but fully respected. After a number of internal debates, in March 2017, the British Prime Minister triggered what's known as Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which is an official declaration that they are to leave. Triggering Article 50 enacted a 2-year timeline that commenced at that stage, and it also commenced a negotiation period. The negotiations are being undertaken by David Davis, the Secretary of State with responsibility for leaving the EU on the British side, and Michel Barnier, a former European Commissioner and French Foreign Minister on the European side. He is negotiating for all 27 remaining member states. They agreed that in phase 1 of negotiations, 3 key issues needed to be addressed. The first one was the status of citizens' rights in each jurisdiction post-Brexit. The second one was the bill that the United Kingdom would have to pay in order to see out their commitments that they receive a return on to the European Union. And thirdly, the situation on the island of Ireland. This is an extremely precarious situation because the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland will be the only land frontier between the EU and the UK post-Brexit. But it's also subject to a 20-year-old peace deal based on a very fragile agreement after 30 to 35 years of civil strife in Northern Ireland. That was signed in 1998. It's referred to as the Good Friday Agreement. It makes 143 references to the European Union. So the aim of both the British and European negotiating sides is to maintain peace on the island of Ireland by making sure there is no border. The negotiations have been very difficult. By October of 2017, the British government were due to have reached proposals when it came to the situation on the island of Ireland. That was missed, but in December, a joint political agreement was reached by the European and British sides, which stated that if negotiations were to fall apart, or if in the future relationships were to fracture, then Northern Ireland would remain fully aligned in terms of customs and regulations with the entire European Union. That was then brought into February-March 2018 when a legal manifestation of that political agreement was produced by the European Commission. This legal manifestation was dismissed, unfortunately, by the British government, and we are due to still receive their interpretation. In March 2018, Theresa May wrote to the European Council and the European Commission stating their continuing commitment to no border on the island of Ireland. However, we have yet to see that detailed progress. So we're now at a stage that we're waiting to see progress in relation to that one key issue from phase 2 in order for us to move on to, from phase 1, in order for us to move on to phase 2 of the negotiation process to deliver a withdrawal agreement. A withdrawal agreement must be agreed by the 2 negotiating parties by the 12th of October European Council meeting. After that date, as per the Lisbon Treaty, that withdrawal agreement needs to receive the assent of the European Parliament and indeed the assent of the British Parliament, either Westminster or Cabinet. That's a matter for them to decide. We are still waiting for the British interpretation, unfortunately, and we're preparing for the difficulties of Brexit, but we are starting to find that the clock is ticking louder and louder.
Senator Richmond, Britain will remain in the European Union until the 29th of March 2019. The negotiations as to what the relationship between the UK and the European Union will look like post-Brexit have yet to be concluded. What is the best possible outcome for the international business community, and is it likely to be achieved?
Unfortunately, at this stage, such arrangement is looking less and less likely by the day. However, we on the European side very much want the deepest possible trading and customs relationship between the UK and the EU post-Brexit. The difficulty is trying to see what that would look like. What we have now in the European Union of 28 member states is exactly what we want. Nothing we will achieve post-Brexit will be as good as what we have now. However, the difficulties do present some opportunities, and we are still hopeful that an agreement can be reached. We're just getting very, very worried at the timeline.
Mr. Tully, many European businesses have begun to rethink their strategy within the United Kingdom, particularly those businesses that are dependent upon the free movement of goods, services and people. Are US businesses as concerned as their European counterparts when it comes to the potential implications of doing business post-Brexit?
Absolutely. U.S. businesses, I've spoken to many CEOs, and they're concerned about the stability of post-Brexit Europe. And what they're interested in seeing is where can they go to minimize the instability. And we're seeing many American companies choosing Ireland because of its English-speaking nature and the common law applications of the Irish judicial system. And that's one of the reasons why Tully Rinckey came here into Ireland. I believe Ireland is on the verge of Celtic Tiger #2. And I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to prove to be a very upward momentum in the Irish economy, with certain areas such as financial services looking to move from London, hopefully to Dublin, as well as aviation sector. And I believe, and I'm a lone person in this, the entertainment sector could pick up here in Ireland if certain changes are made to some current laws.
Mr. Tully, Tully Rinckey is in the process of expanding internationally, and Dublin has been chosen as the HQ location for that international expansion. To what extent was Brexit a determining factor in that decision-making process?
Brexit was the #1 factor in us choosing Ireland as an entry point. Our research had been commenced before Brexit. We were probably 80% done with the planning process to opening up an office in London and a smaller office in Birmingham. Then Brexit hit. I will be the first one to admit Brexit was a surprise for me. I knew it was going to be a close election, but I felt ultimately that the UK was going to stay in the EU. So once Brexit happened, we had to reevaluate. Were we going to continue in the UK market, which is hyper-competitive in the legal field, or were we going to look at a less competitive market but had a huge upward potential? Literally within 90 days after Brexit, we realized Ireland was the place to go. The upward potential here in Ireland is very high. English speaking allows us to communicate easily here. Common law jurisdiction allows us to understand the market much better. And we are comfortable that there's going to be a large migration of highly skilled personnel and large companies from the UK to Ireland. I believe that Western Ireland has the potential of achieving the new Celtic Tiger. Celtic Tiger 1 was focused primarily in the Dublin area, but there are excellent opportunities thanks to the Shannon Airport to grow in the Limerick and Galway and Cork areas.
Mr. Tully, despite Brexit, Tully Rinckey has strategic plans to eventually open an office within the United Kingdom. To what extent does the United Kingdom still hold a strategic value for the international business community post-Brexit?
Brexit is not going to destroy the UK economy. The UK economy may not grow as fast, it may dip back slightly, but London is a historical corporate headquarters for European operations. It was that way before the European Union, and we're comfortable in 5 to 6 to 10 years that it will have staying power. What we're looking at with the UK is the currency valuation. To open up a new office in any country, whether it's Ireland or the UK, is going to be a $1 to $5 million investment on a small scale, $5 to $15 million investment if we're looking for 15, 20 solicitors. With the current value of the pound, while it has increased since the Trump policy on the American currency has changed, it's still at very low percentages. And we want to buy low and sell high. And our intention is to go into Britain when the currency is valued as low as possible, because most of our accounts are in American dollars. And we want to diversify our business holdings in currencies, in office space, and we're very comfortable that in 10 years from now, the UK will have had a significant rebound from Brexit.
Senator Richmond, there has been a noticeable tension within Prime Minister May's cabinet between those who are pro-Brexit and those who are anti-Brexit. Do you think the pro-Brexiteers are so ideologically driven that they would forsake the economic interest to achieve their political objectives?
It's very difficult as a public representative in a different jurisdiction to comment on the internal machinations of another country. However, what we're seeing in the United Kingdom is mass division in both main parties. It's not just the government party, it's equally so within the opposition Labour Party. That's extremely worrying, and unfortunately it comes back to the biggest problem with the referendum. No one who advocated a Brexit ever spelt out what exactly they wanted. You can be a hard Brexiteer, you can be a soft Brexiteer, an opportunistic Brexiteer, and ultimately what will be agreed will not be enough for you. But you have to remember, for the 48% of people who remained, it will absolutely not be good enough for them. So what we're trying to do is keep the European side together, and that has been a tangible success of the Irish government. We have 27 member states making up the world's largest economic bloc. We have a hard right government in Hungary, a hard left government in Greece, yet we have maintained a united position, knowing that a strong European allows both commerce and social responsibilities to flourish and to grow. And we very much want to work with the Prime Minister to make sure that the relationship post-Brexit is the least damaging relationship possible to the interests of the EU as a whole, of course, but also to the United Kingdom. You know, a hard Brexit, a bad Brexit, will devastate the British economy. We need to work towards a sensible, least bad Brexit.
Mr. Tully, we are increasingly seeing a protectionist approach being adopted by a number of national leaders. Is this pure political rhetoric, or is it likely to have a negative impact on how international business is conducted?
I don't. I believe international business is able to properly thrive with the right planning to grow in nearly any political environment. There's always business opportunities to be had, and sometimes when there's tariff wars, which the U.S. is now going into, there are advantages with currency changes and fluctuations. So a good business plan, thoroughly researched, will allow you opportunities irrespective of the internal political aspirations of the politicians.
Senator Richmond, if you had one piece of advice for the international business community when it comes to protecting their interests post-Brexit, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, beyond moving to Ireland, that's definitely a very advantageous proposal. It's, as Matt said, prepare a good business plan. A lot of the shocks of Brexit aren't specific to Brexit, and it's just good business management. Diversify your supply chain, look to expand your operations, make sure that your contracts are up to date. Good, sensible, forward planning business, and take every opportunity that comes.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. For further information on how your business can successfully navigate the Brexit process, please contact Tully Rinckey. Thank you.